All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking a massive and honestly, largely untapped strategic supply chain opportunity between Bangladesh and Brazil. Look, if you're sitting on a leadership team right now and you're mapping out long-term strategic international expansion, you are in exactly the right place.
So let's just dive right into it. Right now, there is a multi-billion-dollar trade gap sitting between these two rising economies, and it is absolutely ripe for strategic expansion. We aren't just talking about a few container shipments here and there. No, we're talking about seamlessly integrating two distinct economic powerhouses into one global supply chain.
Here's our executive roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to look at the bilateral trade loop, the raw materials supply chain, specific apparel strategies, a step-by-step market entry guide, navigating compliance, and finally, accelerating with the BBCCI. Let's get to it.
First up, the bilateral trade loop and the macro opportunity.
Now, consider this massive gap. Brazil exports roughly $2.47 billion to Bangladesh, and that's mostly in essential agricultural commodities. But on the flip side, Bangladesh only exports about $257 million back to Brazil. That imbalance right there, that highlights a wide-open runway for savvy manufacturing executives to go in and capture market share in Latin America's largest economy. And this really isn't a rivalry at all. It's more like a giant economic puzzle where the pieces just fit together perfectly. As the founder of Trade and Investment Bangladesh pointed out, these countries aren't fighting for the exact same global niche. They're actually completing each other's industrial sentences. It's pretty clear how this works in practice. Brazil brings the raw agricultural power, right? The cotton, the soybeans, and the ultimate gateway to the Mercosur market. And Bangladesh, they bring the dynamic manufacturing muscle, a super competitive young workforce, and the gateway to a booming South Asian consumer base. It's a really seamless partnership.
Moving on to Section 2, the raw materials supply chain fueling the manufacturing engine.
This is where it gets really interesting. Let's trace the logistics of this highly efficient life cycle. So Brazil is one of the world's largest exporters of high-quality, contamination-free cotton. On day 1, that cotton gets harvested. Jump to day 45, it's already crossed the ocean and is entering Bangladesh's massive network of textile mills. By day 60, that same Brazilian cotton is spun into premium yarn and transformed into world-class denim or ready-made garments. And by day 90, that finished apparel is shipped right back across the Atlantic, ready to be sold in Brazil's massive retail market. It is just a beautifully efficient, highly profitable, closed-loop system.
Next up, Section 3, the apparel and textile strategy and some very targeted export opportunities. When you break the data down, it shows precisely where executive teams need to focus their manufacturing output. Brazil imports a huge amount of apparel from Asia, and they're actively hunting for reliable sourcing beyond their traditional partners. Ready-made garments, especially things like denim, knitwear, and sportswear, are a huge prime target. But definitely don't overlook jute and eco-friendly packaging. Brazil's retail sector is making a massive push for sustainability right now, which makes Bangladesh's biodegradable jute products incredibly attractive. The exact same logic applies to leather footwear and home textiles for Brazil's rapidly expanding hospitality sector. And, conversely, for any Brazilian leaders tuning into this explainer, Bangladesh boasts a rapidly growing population of over 170 million people. To put that into perspective, that is an exploding market for your agricultural machinery, your renewable energy tech, soybeans, sugar, the whole shebang. So this isn't just a one-way street. It is a massive, reciprocal demographic opportunity for both sides. All right, Section 4, step-by-step market entry. Let's get into the executive roadmap. We've actually condensed our source's 10-point plan down into 4 macro stages for your leadership team. This ensures you move logically from your initial research right through to securing those vital local distributors. So, Stage 1, export readiness and identifying genuine importers. Basically, you can't go in blind. Stage 2 is a strict compliance review and localization. Stage 3 is verified B2B matchmaking, meaning getting out to events and putting your samples in the exact right hands. And finally, Stage 4 is finalizing price negotiations and officially appointing a local distributor. Because trust me, this is a heavily relationship-driven market. You absolutely need boots on the ground or a trusted local agent to succeed here.
Which brings us to Section 5, navigating compliance and overcoming regulatory barriers.
The absolute most crucial point here is preparation. Look, if you want to export to Brazil, your marketing materials, your catalogs, your company profiles, they absolutely must be translated into professional Portuguese. English is just not going to cut it. Next up, you have to lock down your accurate harmonized system or HS code-based tariff identification before you ship a single box. The Brazilian tax and tariff system is famously complex, and if you get your HS codes wrong, your goods are going to stall out at customs. Furthermore, if you happen to be in pharmaceuticals or processed foods, the regulatory registration process is extremely strict. You're fundamentally going to require local representation and specialized Brazilian distributor partnerships just to navigate the local bureaucracy. Now, you might be looking at all those requirements and wondering, okay, how on earth do we bridge a 15,000-kilometer gap between Sao Paulo and Dhaka without a massive upfront investment in time and capital? And that's fair. Honestly, finding reliable partners across language barriers and literal oceans is the single biggest hurdle to this entire strategy. That leads us to our final section, accelerating with the BBCCI and institutional matchmaking. This is exactly where the Brazil-Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industry steps in. They act as your institutional bridge. They essentially eliminate the guesswork by facilitating verified B2B matchmaking. That means they introduce you directly to vetted, legitimate buyers, importers, and investors. No more cold calling across time zones. But perhaps their biggest asset is that they provide direct access to the Made in Bangladesh Expo right in Sao Paulo. This is a highly targeted platform where you can showcase your apparel, your jute, or your ceramics directly to Brazilian wholesalers. They essentially de-risk your market entry by acting as your advocate, sharing vital on-the-ground market information and connecting you straight to the necessary embassies and trade bodies. By leveraging these supply chain synergies and institutional supports like the BBCCI, we can absolutely transform a simple buyer-seller dynamic into a highly profitable, long-term economic alliance. It's really about evolving way past just trading raw cotton and sugar. It's about moving toward integrated investments, joint ventures in sustainable textiles, and true bilateral growth.
So, I really hope this explainer has sparked some serious strategic thinking for your next board meeting. The blueprint is clearly there, the complementary economies are perfectly aligned, and the institutional support to get you over those compliance hurdles is literally waiting for you. This multi-billion-dollar opportunity is very, very real. The only question left is your supply chain ready to take the first step?